I was one of the Native American children, adopted at birth and removed from our country's Indian reservation system. As fate would have it, I was raised by two wonderful parents and grew up in a small Midwest farming community in southwest Minnesota. The strange twist in my story is that I was never told of my true Native American heritage. It was considered taboo back in those days to openly proclaim that you had Native American descent in your family tree. The years went by, and in 1987, at the age of 38, I lost both of my adoptive parents. My wife, while going through their personal belongings, discovered an envelope that had been hidden for years at the bottom of a dresser drawer, and a letter contained some information about the adoption that had taken place years before. She began a search that lasted 5 years. Then 2 weeks before Thanksgiving of 1993, the phone rang, and on the other end of the line was a gentleman who introduced himself as my biological brother. His first words to me were, "Hey bro, you are a Lakota." Neither of us had known the other had existed all those years. We went on to exchange our life stories, and to say it was a life-changing moment in time is an understatement of the greatest magnitude. But at the end of the conversation, he said something that was to forever change the course of destiny for my family and I. He said, "Come on home." We packed up our things and headed west, like the days of old, not knowing what to expect on the other end of the line. But upon our arrival, we were given a grand welcome, and in the blink of an eye, we became part of a new family, a new community, a new culture, and a new world. I am a son of two mothers and a product of two worlds that had collided over and throughout America's growing pains. But I have an equal amount of love for both. The stories you are about to hear are from the people and places over this 30-year journey of ours in a quest to fulfill our mission of hope, peace, and reconciliation of the cultures. Welcome to Hidden Heritage, where we share stories and traditions that celebrate Native American culture and history. As we stand at the start of a new year, I want to explore a tradition that embodies reflection, continuity, and the passage of time. And that is the Lakota winter count blanket. For the Lakota people, the turning of the year wasn't marked by fireworks or calendars. Instead, it was a time of storytelling, record-keeping, and honoring the events that shaped the community. The winter count blanket served as a vital tool in this process, preserving the collective memory of the people for generations to come. Imagine a winter evening, the snow covering the plains and families gathered in a teepee, warmed by a central fire. The elder storyteller sits with a large buffalo hide or cloth in front of him, covering the pictographs. These symbols, painted or etched in a spiral or linear pattern, represent key events that happened that year. This is the Lakota winter count, a historical record and cultural map. Winter count blankets are basically picture calendars, traditionally painted on buffalo hides. They display a sequence of years by depicting their most memorable events. Most winter counts have a single picture symbolizing each year, based on the most significant event that happened that year. This could be a significant battle, a moment of peace, an extreme weather event, or a community celebration. It was a way to document history and collective experiences, ensuring that important stories were never forgotten. For the Lakota people, years ran from first snowfall to first snowfall. Other tribes' winter counts, such as the Kiowa, usually featured 2 marks per year, one for winter and one for the summer. The pictures representing significant events would be used as a reference for the order of the years. Similar to traditions among the indigenous tribes of North America, winter counts were used as numeric records in order to help structure complete accounts of history that would be passed along orally. The indigenous people of North America had many ways of recording history during the pre-contact period that did not depend on alphabetical writing. Without the practice of written records, oral tradition was an extremely important aspect of the indigenous way of life and was the main way that knowledge was transmitted from generation to generation. This oral preservation was a significant part of the Lakota cultural tradition. Located in the northern Great Plains, Lakota people physically recorded yearly events on various materials before and after the point of contact with European settlers. Winter accounts reveal the year number when studied and compared to other sources. The similarities between some winter accounts also demonstrate in their tribal relations, as some tribes in the Great Plains regions had close ties through alliances. Their winter accounts would often be very similar. Lakota winter accounts show the historical ties with Canadian and European traders during a period that precedes the Lewis and Clark expedition and the time of oppression of indigenous people in North America. This demonstrates a close relationship between tribes as well as the settlers, their political and social dynamics. By the end of the 1870s to the early 1880s, copies of winter accounts were being commissioned by European collectors as indigenous historical objects of great value. The Lakota people of the Great Plains did not have a written language until the late 1800s, nor did they think of years as numbers, like 1800 or 1905. But they felt the importance of keeping track of history and found ways to mark the passage of time. For the Lakota, a year began with the first snowfall of one winter and ended with the first snowfall of the next winter. At the end of the year, elders chose a memorable event to represent the whole year. As an example, the picture of a horse standing on a winter count stands for 1801 to 1802, the year this band of Lakota got their first horse. People spoke about the year as the time people had no horses. The images on a winter count might refer to natural occurrences, such as a meteor shower, unusual weather, or outbreaks of disease. Or they might stand for events such as battles, encounters with Europeans, or the death of a leader. The events chosen for the count were not necessarily the most important of that year, but they had to be unique and memorable for the entire community. More than 150 winter counts exist today, in versions made by several different tribal groups. Certain years are marked by events important to the Lakota groups all across the Great Plains, while other years are noted by local happenings, important only to the people who made that particular count. Scholars can figure out what year an image refers to by matching up the count with known events. A dramatic meteor shower in 1833, for example, appears on every Lakota winter count for that year. Counting from that symbol, we can tell that this calendar shows the years 1798 to 1904. The winter count keeper was a respected individual, chosen for their memory, storytelling ability, and understanding of events. They held the responsibility of maintaining and interpreting the winter count for the community. Through the keeper's guidance, these pictures were not static images, but vivid glimpses into the tribe's past. When people needed to understand current events or sought wisdom from the past, they turned to the keeper. The winter count became a living tradition, not just a historical artifact. The winter count keeper was always a man, and he was responsible for maintaining the winter count and remembering its stories. Before recording the past year on the count, the keeper consulted with the council of elders to choose an appropriate event by which to remember that year. The event chosen was not considered the most important event of the past year, but only the most memorable. Winter accounts were also used by individuals within the tribal community to record specific events in their own lives. Tribal communities made up of extended family members also recorded their stories and experiences on winter accounts, so it was not uncommon to have multiple copies of winter accounts within a community. Winter accounts were dynamic documents of recorded history. Variations between similar accounts occurred if a community's historian chose to emphasize a different aspect of an event. Differences among winter account narratives may also be the result of inaccurate translation from Lakota to English. The winter account, like history, is a selective representation of the people's past. The narratives usually reflect both the community's history and its culture. The Lakota view of time is circular rather than linear. Life, like the seasons, moves in circles, with each end leading to a new beginning. The winter count reflects this perspectives, and the pictures often spiral outward, symbolizing the ongoing journey of the people. The new year, in the context of the winter count, was less about resolutions and more about continuity, honoring the lessons of the past while carrying hope into the future. This approach resonates deeply with the Lakota value of respect for ancestors and the interconnectedness of all life. Today, surviving winter counts are preserved in museums and private collections, offering us glimpses into centuries of history as seen through the eyes of the Lakota. They remind us of the importance of storytelling and collective memory. In a world dominated by digital calendars and fleeting moments, the winter count encourages us to pause, reflect, and to honor the journey. As we step into a new year, perhaps we can take inspiration from the Lakota winter count. What symbol would represent your year? What stories would you carry forward? By connecting with traditions like the Lakota winter count, we not only honor indigenous wisdom, but also find meaningful ways to anchor ourselves in time and community. While doing my research, I came across this story I found from the Library of Congress. One such winter count keeper was Baptist Good, born in 1821, and under the Lakota name which translates to brown hat. Good was a member of the Sakanju, or the Brule Lakota, who at the time inhabited the plains west of the Missouri River in present-day South Dakota and Nebraska. In 1868, Good was present at the signing of the Treaty of Fort Laramie, under which the Lakota people surrendered many thousands of acres of their land in exchange for the establishment of the Great Sioux Reservation, a large part of what's now western South Dakota, including the sacred Black Hills. In 1878, the Rosebud Agency was officially established in South Dakota, and the U.S. government began relocating bands of Sakanjas and Lakotas to the new agency. While there, Baptist Good copied his winter count into a drawing book given to him by William Corbusier, a U.S. Army surgeon. He introduced numbers to the count and labeled each event by year. The entry for 1868 shows Good himself shaking hands with General William Harney following the signing of the Fort Laramie Treaty. Baptist Good died in 1894, and the responsibility for the winter count fell to his son, whose name was High Hawk. In 1907, he used watercolor, pen, ink, and paper to produce a copy of Good's winter count. High Hawk's work eventually was donated to the Library of Congress, where today it chronicles a history long gone, but not forgotten. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Hidden Heritage. May the stories of the Lakota winter count inspire you to cherish your own journey as we welcome the new year. Until next time, stay curious and keep the spirit of storytelling alive. I'm Paul the Rush, and this is Hidden Heritage.